everyone, and welcome to Roofers Coffee Shop, RLW, Read, Listen, Watch. My name is Heidi Ellsworth, and we're very happy to have you all here today. We are going to be talking today about the right coatings for the right roof. It is exactly what is on everyone's mind, a trending conversation that we want to have right here on this RLW. But before we get started, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. So as you all know, this is being recorded, and it will be on demand within the next 24 hours. We ask that you share this with your company, with your other roofing professionals, friends, and just overall be sure to get this message out. You'll be able to find that link very easily under RLW navigation on Roofers Coffee Shop and on Coatings Coffee Shop. I am happy to introduce Jeff Harvey, who is the National Sales Manager of MRO for SOPREMA. And we are going to be talking about the right coatings for the right roofs. So Jeff, welcome to the show. Thank you for your patience. And go ahead and please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about TRP, MRO, and SOPREMA.
Okay. First off, thank you for having me. Thank you for joining. I've been in the roofing industry for about 9-10 years now, and started off, working for a family roofing company in Florida doing commercial roofing. And from there, I kind of moved into the manufacturing side. I started with TRP Roofing Products, formerly Tropical, about 8 years ago. And last year, we were acquired by the SOPREMA Group, and we changed the name from Tropical Roofing Products over to TRP Roofing Products, just trying to, expand into new markets. What I currently do is I'm the National Sales Manager for the MRO portion of the business, which is the maintenance, repair, and operation side of our business. So I manage the TRP business and the ChemLink business, which both tie into, maintaining and repairing roofs, restoring roofs, and just focused on that vertical of the business. So it's a little bit about me, and appreciate everybody being here.
Okay. Great, Jeff. Thank you so much. This is such an important topic, and we have a great audience out here. So let's get started. And we're going to start out with the benefits of roof coatings. So Jeff, let's talk about why roof coatings and what are the benefits?
Yeah, absolutely. So some of the benefits for roof coatings are, the extended life cycle cost, the sustainability of that roof, just an overall cost savings for the building owner, and then labor savings. And so, each one of those has some additional points. So, labor savings, for instance, right now we're all facets of the industry are experiencing labor shortages. And so with roof coatings, you can operate smaller crew sizes to be able to get those installations done, which is going to help you, especially with that shortage. And then also, the labor savings from an installation cost. Roof coatings are very quick to be able to be installed. And so we see significant labor savings from that side. As far as costs, those costs, you look at a traditional re-roof, and we'll get into it a little bit later. But those re-roof costs are about 50% higher than what a coating system cost is right now. So those are two of the benefits. Sustainability is a big thing that is going through all, not just in roofing, but everywhere in our lives. And so, not tearing off roofs and restoring those is huge into that sustainability piece. We offer renewable warranties. So you're not having to go in and replace that roof, put the roofing materials into a landfill. So really just helping to kind of push that sustainability overall. So they're an eco-friendly option, and it's a longer lasting roof. So you're extending that life cycle cost. You're taking a 20-year roof and making it a 35-year roof.
Right.
So
saving the landfills.
Absolutely. So roofing materials are actually the third largest contributor to landfills in the world. So anything we can do to kind of help that is big.
And we just had a comment come in from Kyle. Thank you, Kyle. That, it does help with labor costs because you can get people trained up faster. The skill level is not quite as intense or advanced. That, like you said, earlier with cost and labor savings, that makes a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, let's go on then and talk a little bit about best practices. We know why it's good. We know why we need it. And so what are best practices for roof coatings overall, assessing roofs?
Yeah, so the big thing is that visual inspection. So the first thing before you ever step foot on the roof and figure out, okay, is the roof dry and sound, is you want to do an examination underneath. So you want to walk that building from the inside, especially if it's open, to be able to see if there's any damage to the roof above you, because you don't want to go walk on a roof and it's rusted underneath and potentially have an injury or even worse. And so you always want to examine that roof deck from underneath if possible. And so from there, then you get on the roof and you're looking at the age of the roof, what materials were used, the previous maintenance history, and then you go even further and you look at moisture intrusion, leaks, how many roofs are currently installed, check the drains. So you're trying to make sure that you have a dry and sound roof. If you install a roof coating over a wet roof, 99% of the time it's going to wind up failing. So we really want to take the time to assess the roof, make sure that we're checking adhesion and are there little ponding areas like the ones in the photo. How do we address those? And so we're really trying to make sure that we're taking the time to provide the right installation and the right specification for that roof. So assessing the roof and what the needs are is the most important thing.
Yeah, and really, when you look at it, there's so many different areas like, adhesion tests and ponding, really kind of going through that. Talk to us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so on the ponding water side, silicone roof coatings are unaffected by ponding water, but you always want to follow those NRCA guidelines. So NRCA guidelines recommend, removing all ponding water where there's all areas where water's sitting on the roof for more than 48 hours. So you want to do what you can to go ahead and eliminate that. And adhesion tests, you're always trying to figure out, okay, am I going to stick to this surface? Yes, I stuck to this other roof, which was similar, but as we all know, not every roof is the same. And so we want to be sure that we're doing that adhesion test to make sure that we have proper adhesion between the substrates so there's no failures.
Yeah. All of it's really important. And, I just want to kind of hit on this too with the assessments. We have seen severe weather. Across the country, whether it's hail, wind uplift, all those kind of things. So really when you're looking, and that's not even talking about the trades, right? All the different trades that are on the roof. So when you're really looking at the damage for the roof, what is some of that you should really be focused in on?
Yeah, so damage, you're looking for tears, you're looking for cracks, voids, you're looking for objects left behind from other trades, screws, AC doors that have come off, or even in some cases you get a windstorm and an AC unit gets dragged across the roof. That's a little bit more extreme, or in a hurricane and can cause significant damage. And so we're really looking to see, okay, what has happened on this roof? Is it something the damage is too far from what can be fixed with a coating system? So
excellent. Now we did have a question here, and we have a couple questions. So some of the questions I'm going to hold off till later when we get to some of those slides, because you're asking good questions ahead of time. But we do have a question right now on, are there standards for adhesion tests?
Yes, so there is actually an ASTM number that relates to adhesion tests, but and what that ASTM number, which I'm sorry, I don't remember it off the top of my head. That ASTM number, what it is you put down your adhesion test strips, which are supposed to be 1 inch wide and 12 inches long, and you put those down in a 3-course manner, and then you're pulling up on those. So I've seen a lot of people go and put 4 inch or 6 inches down for an adhesion test, and that's not giving you that that true pound per linear inch. And so that's what we're looking for. And so when you're doing an adhesion test, you're looking for anywhere from 2 pounds is really that ASTM standard. 2.5 pounds is what we like to always strive for. And so that's, I see a lot of people doing it wrong, as Kyle said in the chat, but there is actually an ASTM standard for that.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. Well, then let's move on to look at the challenges. And this kind of goes to what a lot of people are, where everyone's talking a little bit about, but roof challenges. So if you can kind of talk through what are some of the things that people should be aware of as they're getting ready to recoat or coat.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Mike Wallach. I see that ASTM number. So roof challenges is, we've already talked about some of them. Moisture in the system. For a roof coating, if you have moisture in the system, that's the worst thing that you can have. Is it a bad thing? Yes. Can it make it so that you cannot coat that roof? No. So what we would have to do is remove that wet insulation and replace it with like materials, go back through and continue with your installation. That touches on the portions of the roof that need to be removed. It all kind of ties together. Active leaks, we want to address those before we go and just put a roof coating on top of it, because sometimes that roof coating can't fix that specific leak. And so we want to address that leak before we go ahead and coat it. So rusted metal roofs, you've got to treat rust or else it's going to continue to happen. That's a big challenge, but it's not a challenge that if it's surface rust, that's one thing, but if it's rusted all the way through, completely different circumstance. So that's why we always encourage that, especially on metal roofs, that roof deck inspection.
We're seeing a lot more. I mean, I know it's been going on for quite a while, but we are seeing a lot more metal roofs being using roof coatings and being recoated. So that rust and just really understanding the differences between the roofs, whether it's metal or your traditional more TPO or flat mont bit, that's something to really take into consideration.
Yeah, absolutely. And then one of the last points, seams. Your number one failure points on roofs are going to be seams and penetration. So making sure that you're addressing all of those seams and that you don't overlook any of them, because that's really where those leaks are going to come from.
Excellent. So when when to coat versus re-roof. So how do you have this conversation, and how do you really kind of determine what's best for the owner and the roof?
Yeah, so it all starts with what the owner's goals are for that building. So having that conversation, is it a building that they're looking to sell? Are they going to be a long-term tenant? What do they have? What's going on inside their building? Roof coatings have minimal disruptions to the building occupants inside, and so sometimes if you have a building that you can't have that disruption, this is going to be key on, okay, a coating might be a better option if your roof is a candidate. And so just asking that owner what their goals are. Coatings have very easy transferable warranties, and so that helps. Okay, building owner is going in and they're trying to sell the building in the next 2 years. So we go in and we get them, a roof coating with a warranty, and they're able to transfer that warranty at the sale. The other time is, they're going to sell that building. They don't want to put a full re-roof on it. So if they can save 50% and still give a good solid warranty on that sale, that's a big thing. So owner's goals, just finding out and understanding, asking those qualifying questions is going to be huge. And then, once you find out their goals, then you can start to dig into some of these other things. So accessibility. You get a roof in downtown Dallas, where I'm based out of, and you're going to have to rent a crane, shut down a street, or like they did with American Airlines Center recently, they brought those materials in by helicopter. And so you have to look at what that accessibility is. Sometimes it might be easier to send some roof coating buckets up in a service elevator than having to shut down a street and things like that. So really just kind of looking at all these different variables, time of year, rainy season, You open up a roof in South Florida during the summertime and you get those afternoon pop-up storms. It's not easy. So, silicone coatings specifically are rain ready within 20 to 30 minutes, and you're not opening up that roof. So just looking at all these different variables, it's really a case by case basis. So you can start with some of these points that we've discussed, and then kind of build that option out from there. Type of building, hospitals, schools. The only time you can really work on a school is during the summer or when the kids are out of school. So coatings actually give you the flexibility to be able to work during the school day, or at night. So, there's that additional window of being able to close these jobs and install these jobs that you're not able to get sometimes with some of the re-roof because of some of the standards and the interruptions that you have. So
it seems like, when you talk about type of buildings right now and really determining that, there's so much to consider. If it's a high-tech building, like you said, schools, hospitals, really, and it kind of goes back, Jeff, to emphasize that number one bullet point of owners' goals. As you connect with your owners and really understand their needs, you're going to be able to come back with some really great options.
Yeah, absolutely. There's been circumstances where I've been on a roof that received hail damage, and there was rain coming in within the next 2 days, and it was a data center, and so you can use roof coatings as a repair. And so we were able to go up there and we were able to dry in that roof to ensure that that data center underneath didn't have any shutdowns or any disruptions or moisture intrusion whatsoever. So,
yeah. Very important. And we have a couple more questions. Everyone out there, I'm going to get to them because I know your questions are going to relate to some slides that are coming up. So keep asking them, but if I haven't answered them, don't worry, I will, I won't, Jeff will, as we move through. So as we're looking at this, what roof works better for roof coatings? I think this is, a lot of people at one point, maybe 10, 20 years ago, they're just like coat everything. But really, certain roofs work better than others. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you just touched on, coat everything. Most roofs can be candidates for coatings, but you have to go through all those qualifying stages to find out if that roof truly is a candidate for a coating. So, if the roof is saturated, what's that percentage look like? Is it 40%? Is it 20%? Is it 10%? Is it 80%? So all of those things help make that decision on if the roof can be a candidate for a coating. What roof is the best would be the roof that has been well taken care of. Little to no squares need to be replaced before coating. It's nearing the end of its roof life and has zero problems. Those are the best roofs to coat. Somebody that's actually taking care of their roof, because what we're doing is we're going to come in there, we're going to restore that roof, and we're going to give them another 10 or 20 years before they have to touch that, as long as they continue doing what they were doing in maintaining that roof. One of the things we haven't touched upon in here, and we'll talk about it later on, is care and maintenance. And selling those programs. So we'll talk about that in a minute, but be proactive, protect those roofs that you've made that investment in. And metal roofs are the best candidate for a coating. You look at a metal roof, more than likely it's standing seam, it's aluminum, it doesn't have that finish on it. And so, it bakes in the sun. So we can go in there, we can put a reflective coating, drop that roof temperature on the surface level, but also underneath. And so that's where metal roofs are an ideal candidate for a roof coating as well. But really, you can address any of those. So it's a single ply roof. One of the things with TRP is we've made a direct bond silicone. So that silicone bonds directly to that roof in that substrate. So we've eliminated the need for some primers due to the adhesion promoters that we have in our product. And so, it opens the door a little bit more for some of these other roof systems, such as single ply, mod bit, and you get into some of those areas. California Title 24, they want roof coatings, they want reflective roofs. And so, they've got a lot of built up 4-plies out there with no gravel on them. Those are great candidates to do a restoration system. So.
Perfect. We did have a question that came in that goes along with this, what roofs, but it was, what about colors and fading warranties when roofs can be seen from the ground level?
Yeah. So as far as colors, at TRP, we were able to do custom colors. The photo on this slide is actually a custom color that we did, called Black Fox, and that's a silicone product on that roof. So we can do custom colors in silicone or acrylic. As far as fading warranties, it's very tough because you have to use some specialized pigments. We can get those color stay pigments, but it's not something that we use too often because the price is very expensive. So it winds up being about anywhere between 5 to 10 times the usual cost. And so sometimes it's not really beneficial. I know that another competitor of mine, they had a Kynar, and they had a color stay warranty, which I always referred that whenever somebody came to me and said, hey, I need something that's going to last and keep this color. So I don't know if they're still manufacturing that product or not, but that was the only person I really knew that was doing a color stay warranty.
Right. And when we talk about oh, you did. I'm sorry. We already talked about that. So we're going to move on. And we have lots of great questions coming in. I love this. Okay, so how to know which type of coating systems to use. So let's work our way through this. And we actually have some questions over here that are going to fit perfect with this slide.
Awesome. So, the coating systems that we currently have are silicone and acrylic based coating systems, but then we also do spray polyurethane foam, and then we do full fabric reinforced systems. And so we can do both of those, spray polyurethane foam and full fabric reinforced, with a silicone or an acrylic coating. And so when you would choose a silicone coating over an acrylic, it is going to be based on what that roof is telling you. And so typically on any flat roofs, no slope whatsoever, we're going to recommend silicone because, as I discussed earlier, silicone is unaffected by ponding water. And so eventually, regardless of how good your install is, there will be some sort of bird bath or ponding water on that roof 10, 15, 20 years down the road. So that's why we always typically try to recommend silicone when it comes to a low slope or flat roof. You want to continue to make sure that roof does have proper drainage, because the weight of water is considerable. It's roughly 7 to 8 pounds per gallon. So you think about how big some of these roofs are, and if that roof doesn't drain properly, that silicone is going to hold that water. And if that roof isn't structurally sound to hold that water, it could be a big issue. And so that's where we want to make sure that we're doing all of these things to make sure, okay, yes, I put on the silicone roof, it's performing as it needs to, but I also need to make sure that those drains stay clear, which is why a care and maintenance program is so important. For acrylic roofs, I really like to install those, or recommend the installation of those to be installed on anything that has a 312 slope or greater, just because acrylic can't withstand that ponding water. And so it looks really good on metal. It stays bright white longer. It's also self-sacrificing. So every year you lose about 1 mil to 1.5 mil per year, which is what we measure coatings in, is by mil thickness. And so that roof is going to stay bright white. It's going to have less, or it's going to have greater dirt pickup resistance than a silicone coating would. So typically, once you get above a 3-4-12, you can see that from the ground. So that's where it's really beneficial. Spray polyurethane foam, we look at that option when there's insulation that needs to be added to bring it up to code, or the building isn't cooling like they would like it to. 1 inch of spray polyurethane foam is roughly 6.8 R value. And so that's where we look at those options. Also, SPF can be really good in those hard to reach areas, those details that aren't very easily flashed in. So you've got a wall flashing and that metal counter flashing just isn't going to work. And so just trying to work through some of those different variables that you have, spray polyurethane foam might be a good option.
Yeah.
Just you can go in there, spray it in an area, it's going to build out and expand. And so it can cover that area. So it's not conditions have to be right. You have to know what you're doing to install SPF because it is very finicky as far as moisture and air temperature and everything like that. But when installed correctly, it can be a good system. And then full fabric reinforced, you're essentially building a full roofing system on the roof. So you're putting a base coat down of roof coating, then you're embedding a full 40-inch roll of polyester, and then you're putting another coat on top. So you're essentially building, that fabric reinforced roof on top of the roof. It's being formed on that roof. You're not going and welding, single ply together and having all those seams, you're coating over top of that. You're making it a complete monolithic system. But having that, extra protection with that reinforcement of that fabric is big.
Yeah. You have that full system at that point. So, okay, we have some great questions around this. One of them is, silicone roofs are great for keeping water out, like you said, but they tend to get dirty and dark and lose their solar reflectivity. How can you work around that with a silicone roof?
So for silicone, it's always going to get dirty. There's no way around it. The biggest thing is going to be that care and maintenance program. So what we recommend is to always go up there, probably depending on the surrounding areas. So like for this particular roof in this photo, you've got a lot of trees around, so it's going to drop pollen, things like that. That roof might need to be cleaned more often than something that's in a wide open space with no trees, no highways, nothing around it. So, recommending semi-annual or annual cleanings is going to be key to keep that roof bright white.
Yeah. Perfect. And Frank Polcini also asked, what is your opinion of SPF, which you kind of answered, but he wanted to know your opinion of SPF as an overcoat and SPF as a full tear-off re-roof product.
So it really is going to depend on the roof. It's also going to depend on the installer. I mean, SPF, like I said, is very finicky. You have to know what you're doing. You have to know what you're getting into from a tear-off side. The installation side, there's different grades that you have to use during different temperature zones. It can be a good system. I like SPF in some places, but it's not an everyday roof. For me, I do think that it has its places, and that really depends on the roof. I like it over a dry, clean gravel system. I like it over an existing SPF roof. I'm not a huge fan of it over metal or some of the others. Single ply, you can't go direct with SPF to that single ply. You have to put a dens deck down first, which you're adding more screws into that roof. And creating, more potential leak points. But I do think that SPF does have its place in some circumstances. So okay. I hope that answered your question, Frank.
So, and please, everyone, keep asking your questions. I'm taking them as they come. And we have some more here, but they'll work with some other things. So, the following up on your question about the silicone getting dirty, it was, how do you clean a silicone roof? Just power wash it?
Yeah, so you want to take you don't even need to power wash it. You can just take a soft wash to it with a soft bristle brush and a light cleaner, and that's going to come off, because technically that dirt isn't sticking to that silicone, it's just kind of laying on top. And so even just a light soft wash will get that bright white again.
Okay. And then we did have another question that just came in from the chat from Kevin. Thank you. He said, good afternoon. How does one conduct a recoating of an existing silicone roof coating when silicone is a complicated substrate to achieve a bond to?
Yeah, so one of the things when we developed the silicone that we have is we wanted to be able to maintain not just our silicone, but also existing silicone, because that's one of the biggest pain points with silicone is, what do you do once you've installed it? And so what we recommend is, go out there, clean that roof in a small area, put an adhesion test patch down, and check what your adhesion is. We're one of the few that are able to, and one of the only ones that I know that has third-party testing over existing silicone roofs, and have specifications where we can write warranties over those existing silicone roofs.
Excellent. Okay. Well, good. Well, you just kind of that led us right perfect into our next topic, and that is the importance of preparation. And so overall different types of roof systems. So let's start with that, Jeff.
Yeah. So, we talked about that visual inspection is very key. But surface preparation and the detail work is the most important. So we've talked about moisture analysis already. We just talked about compatibility of the old roof with coatings, and so looking into those adhesion tests, that's very, very important to make sure that you have proper adhesion, especially if you're doing an existing silicone. You're doing a single ply that you don't know the exact age of that, because of all the plasticizers and everything else that goes into some of those single ply roofs. You want to be able to ensure that you have that proper adhesion, and so cleaning that roof. So I'm not just talking about the pressure washing or getting the granules off. Going through and making sure that you've trimmed the trees back, that no tree limbs are hanging onto that roof, and as the wind blows, they're going to sit there and they're just going to scratch away at that roof. And you want to go and you want to make sure that you're doing that prep work around the building, along with cleaning it with a pressure wash. We sell a roof wash, and just getting that surface prepped and ready to go, doing your fixing any of your active leaks during that preparation stage, and then doing your detail work before you go in and coat the entire roof. So in this photo, there's a lot of detail work, and this contractor goes above and beyond to make sure that all the seams, all the penetrations, everything is covered in roof mastic, to ensure that once he puts that top coat on, he's never going to have to go back to that roof again. And this is another one when you talk about access. In order to get buckets to this, or in order to re-roof this roof, you've got all the AC units up there. You've got a crane that's going to have to lift, which is only going to be able to access that roof from one side based on the boats and the water on the back side of it. So this is a great roof to talk about accessibility. They could send the buckets up in the service elevator and do this roof with no cranes, no major expense like that.
This is a great picture, by the way. I just love this. So I know I just want to kind of talk a little bit more about that moisture analysis, because that is so key to a strong coatings. I mean, I think that's probably where people have gotten in trouble before, when they don't do all the core samples or analysis or infrared, however they may be doing it. And that's probably the question to you: what's the best method? But that moisture analysis is so important.
Yeah, and as far as what method is the best method, there's a lot of different ways, and it really depends on the roof. Some of them have their disadvantages. If you're doing a gridded scan, you're only scanning that one area, and so okay, if you have it gridded out every 10 feet, well, there could be moisture 5 feet out that you can't see because it's covered. And so, each one has its advantages and disadvantages, but as long as you're doing that moisture analysis, whether it's a thermal scan, it's a nuclear scan, all the different types that are out there, it's important. And then verifying those scans with core samples, and making sure that you know what you're getting into.
We had a question from Roosevelt. Thank you. If there is a blister or puncture in an existing silicone roof, how are repairs made?
So for a blister or a puncture, we have a couple of options that I can speak of specifically. We have a product called RX Roof Repair, which is a silicone repair mastic. which you don't need to add fibers. So for a blister or a puncture, or for a blister, for example, you would go ahead and you would open that blister up, see if what was causing that blister. Is it moisture, or what's causing that? If it's moisture, cut that blister out, let it breathe. If you need to cut out even more around it, cut that out, make sure that you don't have to go back and make that repair again. And then fix with like materials. So as we talked about, brief just before this, our silicone can adhere to our silicone, but also other existing silicones. And so you can go right back over it after you clean around that edge, and you can tie right back into it. For a puncture, you can do a similar step, but also that RX roof repair has the thick fibers in it, so it doesn't require fabric reinforcement. And you can go and you can take a trowel and spread that out after you've cleaned that surface. So
excellent. Keep those questions coming. These are great. So let's go in and let's talk about the importance of documentation. I think, really as from a risk mitigation is so important for contractors on this. So let's talk through this, Jeff.
Yeah. So importance of documentation, we talked about moisture levels. We talked about, getting those thermal scans or any moisture testing done. That's going to be able to say, hey, this roof had 10% moisture. We cut it out in these areas and we replaced it with like materials. We're good. And so it allows us to be able to issue those warranties, and also gives you as a contractor peace of mind that, hey, I eliminated those areas that had those issues. Wet mill reading documentation. So taking those wet mill samples as you're going through that roof and checking, every couple of feet as you go to make sure that you're getting those proper wet mills, to ensure that you're getting the warranty term that you're trying to get. You want to do that at the beginning and not at the end. When we come to do slit samples and you're short, we're going to say, hey, you need to add more product, and nobody wants to go back and do work twice. So wet mill reading documentation, taking the photos, documenting it each day in each area that you're doing are key, because when we go up there for that warranty inspection, we're going to ask for those things, and we're going to take slit samples. And, let's say there's an area where it's like, hey, you're a little light on here. You can say, well, I've got my mills, my wet mill readings in this area, and go through that. So, documentation is huge. It helps protect everybody.
And how do you share that? I mean, how often should they be sharing that with the owners or the property managers to kind of really make sure that they understand that all this testing is being done ahead?
I think it's something that you include in your proposals, and you let them know, hey, here's the things that we do that set us apart from everybody else, is we go and we do this testing with the manufacturer, and we have their blessing after we've done all these testings to be able to do these things.
That's excellent. Okay, we have all kinds of great questions that are coming through here. So, how does it work on a metal roof with exposed fasteners?
Okay, so a metal roof with exposed fasteners. So do that initial inspection, make sure that the substrate below isn't rusted out before you get on that roof. But then once you get up there, what you would do for a coating system, if it's low slope exposed fastener, so let's say a 1 or 212, you could go with silicone or you could go with acrylic. And so what you would do is you would treat your horizontal and vertical seams with a mastic grade product, whether it's acrylic or silicone. Either one of those, you're going to treat those horizontal and vertical seams. You're also going to put a little dollop of that mastic on every fastener as well. And then once that's all done and cured, then you can go back and you can do your full top coat over top of that. So if you get, I think I saw somebody ask about a 512 pitch. Once you start to get up into those higher pitches, you're going to have to do multiple coats to prevent that product from running off, but it's still all the same prep. So you prep your horizontal, your vertical seams, and your fasteners.
I think, and that question about the 512 was,
for Duncan's question, because I can see it real quick.
Okay, perfect. Go ahead.
There's a couple different ways that you can do it. There is Albion makes a gun that you can actually load with product. There's a new thing on the market called a roof tube. And then there's also, a chip brush a lot of guys still use a chip brush and get down there on their hands and knees and put it down. So there's a variety of different methods that can be done that way.
Perfect. Excellent. And what are the pros and cons of coating a 512 metal roof with silicone or acrylic? Also solvent-based versus water-based acrylic. What's your preference?
So as far as, a 512, I always recommend acrylic when it comes to that. Just because it's a little bit easier to work with. Silicone is extremely slick when it's wet. So, if there's ever anybody that gets up on that roof on a 512, I don't want them to fall off. And so, an acrylic is a little bit of a better option. Plus, you can spray that acrylic a lot easier than spraying with a silicone. It requires a different rig and cleaning methods and things like that. So a 512, I would absolutely recommend an acrylic based product. As far as solvent or water based acrylics, me personally, I tend to lean towards water based acrylics over solvent based acrylics. And that's just because when you start to get into the solvent based acrylics, you have to put on, more gallons per square, and it doesn't become as cost effective as just going with a silicone based coating.
For acrylic, water based.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on the solvent based acrylics do have really good elongation, which is great. But silicone's starting to get up there with that elongation and tensile strength. So,
okay. We're going to right here, when we're talking about importance of documentation, there's a lot of things that are going on across this country, especially Florida. So one of our first questions here is the industry doing anything to get coatings better recognized by citizens for condos? I'm going to assume citizens is capitalized, that's insurance. They only allow 2 to 3 years for the overcoat.
Yeah, so this is something new that I've heard just recently, is that some of the condo and HOA associations, especially in Florida, their insurance companies are requiring some different things, and so it's something that within the last 2 weeks has really hit my desk, and so we're going to be looking into getting some full system approvals with some of the insurance companies like FM, and we currently have FM on some of our roof coatings. The problem is it's not the FM full system. And so that's one of the things that we're going to be looking at, because I think that that's going to be a valuable thing going into some of these condos and the HOA associations to help them with their insurance companies.
Yeah. And Frank followed up with that, is that because of that 2 to 3 year, it makes it unaffordable. So what you're talking about is going to help kind of bring that more into the range where they can sell into condos.
Yes.
Great. Frank, let me know if we answered that question. Seems like it, but I want to make sure. And then also Michael Black, thank you. Hello, Michael, said, are you seeing the new insurance requirements in Florida, which basically don't approve coatings on any building with persons living in, i.e. condos, assisted living, etc., being adopted in other states?
So I have not seen that adopted in any other states. It's primarily only been Florida that I've heard that from. But we will continue to look into that across the group of companies to make sure that we're doing everything we can to ensure that we have products that our customers can use on any building anywhere. So
yeah, we are. I mean, unfortunately, it seems like anything that starts in Florida and California works its way across country. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, great. I think I'm all caught up on questions. If I did miss anything, I don't think I did, but if I did, please pop it in the chat or in the Q&A, and I'll make sure that we get that. We do want to talk a little bit about training, because after all this great information and everything going there, training is so important to get your crews and to get your teams in for that. So talk a little bit about where to find that training information and kind of the process.
Yeah. So, check out our website. We've got, a new updated website. There's a contact us portion on there if you would like to contact us to set up a training. Our social media pages, we post trainings as they're happening across the country every month. So that way you guys can see that there. Or if you're interested in a training, reach out to me directly, and I'll get you in contact with the local rep, and we'll get that training set up. So we've got, training centers throughout the U.S., but we can also do trainings at your office, or we can find a distributor and do a training at their office as well. So we're very flexible when it comes to trainings, and we try to do as much as we can, because we know that training is so important when it comes to roof coatings.
Excellent. We are getting closer to the top of our hour. I have a little bit more here, but I do want to just say, if you have any questions, whatever they are, it doesn't matter. We will get them out right now, and we can have Jeff answer those. But Jeff, I would like it if you could maybe talk a little bit about your training facility in Texas, because it is very large and you do a lot there. So maybe if you could just share kind of how that works.
Yeah, so we have a training center here at our SOPREMA warehouse in Dallas. We can host about 75 to 100 people. And then if we need a smaller, more intimate training, we've got about a 25-person conference room that we can utilize and we've got a designated hands-on space out in that warehouse that's marked with safety lines and everything. And so we really try to do a good job of bringing folks into this training facility, because we have a good, open, safe place to host a lot of people. We currently have a training going on right now. I'm actually here at the office, and there's about 50 people in that training room going through some training right now. So always trying to utilize and train people as often as we can, and really utilize this space and showcase it, because it's a beautiful facility.
Yeah. And we are hearing this day in and day out, that is just something, not only that it's important for the roofing company, but that the building owners are looking for. They're looking for these kind of trainings and certifications, and to be a part of that. So SOPREMA is doing, and TRP is doing huge amounts that direction. So we are going to open it up to any additional questions. As I had said, any questions for the right roof or the right coatings for the right roof. In the meantime, Jeff, just some of the trends that you're seeing out there, that come around coatings that maybe people should be aware of, that you're seeing happening from the building owner standpoint.
I think a lot of building owners were nervous when the prices got crazy over the last couple of years. But pricing has come back down. It's become more cost effective and more affordable again to where it was pre-COVID. And so I think just educating them that, it was a viable option, is a viable option, and that the costs have come back down. I think that's an important thing. Building owners are really starting to focus in on sustainability. And so I think that's a very important key to touch on, and, reducing the impact into the landfills. And I think that those things are so important, and those are things that building owners are really looking at right now.
And being able to use that during your sales presentations and knowing to really have that transparent conversation, like you said earlier, with the goals of the owner, then a lot of this just fits right into place.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that, we offer at TRP is, we'll go into that meeting with you and your building owner, and you can utilize us as the manufacturer to say, hey, we stand behind this contractor, we've been on your roof, and we're good with what we're offering you.
I want to say thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you for having me, and thank you everybody for being here today. I appreciate all the questions, and if you have any additional, reach out to Heidi, and she'll get you in touch with me and or someone on my team, and we'll get you guys taken care of.
Excellent. And as you all know, you can find all this information about SOPREMA and TRP on the Roofers Coffee Shop directories, also on Coatings Coffee Shop. So please check it out. Lots of great information about all their products. And any other questions that you may have, you can also route them through that on the directory. Please, as you know, this is being recorded, and it will be available on demand in 24 hours. So be sure to share this out with your company and with other folks in the industry. Also, check out all of our RLW webinars under the RLW navigation on Roofers Coffee Shop. There is all great webinars out there, including some from SOPREMA from the past couple of years. So please join us next month, the last Wednesday of the month. We will be having our next RLW. We appreciate you all, and we look forward to any questions you may have, and we'll see you next time on Roofers Coffee Shop RLW. Have a great day.